Hello guys, welcome to my channel and we will be talking about a drama mystery movie called Burning. The movie begins with Lee Jong-soo making a laundry delivery for a store. After the delivery, he is asked to participate in the raffle draw and he wins a lady's watch. One of the girls, Shin Hae-mi, reminds him that they lived in the same neighborhood in Paju City, but Jong-soo fails to recognize her. She tells him that she had plastic surgery and asks if he is free as she is on break. Right after, they leave to smoke in the alley and Jong-soo tells her that he is an aspiring writer, although he works part-time in a laundry store. They start to bond and he gives her the wristwatch he won in the draw. Hae-mi decides to invite him for a drink later that night and Jong-soo accepts. At night, Hae-mi informs him that she will be traveling to Africa as she wants to quench her great hunger and find meaning in life. She asks him to feed her cat at her house while she's away and Jong-soo agrees with a smile on his face. The next morning, Jong-soo informs her that he is moving back to his house in Paju, as his father, Lee, committed a crime and now he needs to feed the cattle because no one else cares. Hae-mi takes him to her apartment and Jong-soo compliments her room. She tells him her cat, Boyle, is shy and has autism. However, Jong-soo deduces that Hae-mi doesn't have a cat and she only wanted to bring him to her place. Hae-mi asks him if she is still ugly as Jong-soo once told her that she was ugly in middle school. He becomes speechless, but Hae-mi kisses him and they become intimate with each other. Later that day, Jong-soo leaves for Paju and he looks around the house, as it brings back memories. He then leaves to feed the cattle. Late at night, Jong-soo receives a call but the caller does not speak and the call disconnects. The next morning, he receives a call but the caller doesn't speak just like the last time and he leaves for Hae-mi's house. He feeds the cat and calls Boyle but it doesn't answer, even though Jong-soo sees the cat's waste in the litter box. He soon sees a picture of Hae-mi on the wall and he decides to please himself. Later that day, he goes to the court for his father's hearing and discovers that he is accused of assaulting an officer of the law, thereby obstructing the execution of his duty. The lawyer tells him to visit his father and asks him to accept to write an apology letter to the police department instead of being stubborn. It's been 2 weeks and Jong-soo hasn't seen the cat, but he continues to pleasure himself in her room. While he does this, Hae-mi calls and tells him that she has been stuck at Nairobi airport for 3 days, after a bombing incident. However, she reveals that she is already on a flight back home and she will arrive the next day. The following day, Jong-soo goes to pick her up and she introduces him to Ben, the friend she met during the crisis as they were the only Koreans at the airport. Hae-mi seems fond of Ben, which makes Jong-soo jealous, as they all go out to have dinner. While they eat, Hae-mi tells Jong-soo that she joined the Sunset Tour, a program showing the desert sunset, and she recalls all the amazing experiences she had, but she starts to cry and states that she wants to disappear like the sunset. Ben reveals that it fascinates him when he sees people crying as he has never shed a tear in his life. Surprised, Jong-soo asks him what he does for a living but Ben gives a cryptic answer. He discloses that his work is a playing ground for him. Ben asks Jong-soo who his favorite writer is and tells him that he would like to share his story with him one day since Jong-soo is a writer. Ben offers to drop Hae-mi at home and she accepts without hesitation, which surprises Jong-soo. On getting home, Jong-soo receives the call again but the caller does not speak, forcing him to ask the caller to say something as he is getting frustrated. The next morning, Jong-soo writes a petition on behalf of his father and asks other farmers to sign it. He manages to get a signature, even though the man says that his father isn't friendly. He receives a call from Hae-mi and leaves but he is disappointed to find out that Ben is also having lunch with her. Not long after, Ben offers them to cook dinner at his place and they all leave for his apartment. At his house, Jong-soo uses the bathroom, where he spots a box of syringes and drugs and also bracelets of different ladies. Jong-soo soon starts to question Ben's wealth and lifestyle. Afterward, he asks Hae-mi if she has ever asked why Ben likes seeing her, and she says that Ben likes her personality, as she is interesting. Later on, while Jong works on the farm, Hae-mi calls him to inform him that she and Ben are on their way to his house. Hae-mi tells Ben how Jong-soo rescued her when she jumped into a well, but she reveals that Jong-soo doesn't remember her anymore. After eating lunch, Ben offers them cannabis, which makes Hae-mi lose control and she begins to dance topless. She falls asleep soon after and Jong talks to Ben about his father's anger issue and how he made him burn his mother's clothes after leaving them. Ben also confesses that he burns down greenhouses as a hobby. He adds that he chooses an abandoned greenhouse and sets it on fire, a tradition he does every 2 months. He states that the Korean police do not care about the abandoned greenhouse, therefore he cannot be caught. Realizing Ben is a criminal, Jong is forced to ask him where he will be burning next, and he says that the place is close to his house as he came to their town to scout the area. Jong tells him that he loves Hammy, but Ben laughs at his revelation. Shortly after, Hammy wakes up and Jong scolds her for going topless in front of a man. However, Hammy ignores him and she leaves in Ben's car. Just as they are about to leave, Jong informs Ben that he will be keeping an eye on the greenhouses. Later that night, Jong has a nightmare and he recalls the moment he burned his mother's clothes, but he quickly snaps out of the dream. He leaves for a job interview and calls Hammy, but her number isn't reachable. During the interview, he is asked where he lives, but Jong does not answer the question. He decides to ditch the interview and begins to investigate if there are any abandoned greenhouses. While he inspects one greenhouse, he gets a call from Hammy, but she does not say anything. Out of fear, Jong heads over to her house but discovers that the password on her door has been changed. Jong decides to leave, however, he continues to call Hammy, but doesn't get a response. At night, Jong is unable to get some sleep as he is worried about Hammy. He continues to search all the abandoned greenhouses in the neighborhood, but he doesn't find her. The next day, Jong goes to her house once again and he manages to convince the landlady to open the door, using her master key, as he needs to feed the cat. Jong finds out the room has been tidied up even though Hammy doesn't like cleaning up her room. He asks Hammy's friend about her, but she doesn't know anything and Jong resumes his search for Hammy. Suspicious of Ben's activities, Jong begins to follow him everywhere he goes and he confronts him in a restaurant. He asks him if he burned down any abandoned greenhouse and Ben confesses that he did, days after he left his place. Jong is surprised by his confession as he checks the greenhouses every morning, but Ben tells him that he might have missed something that is right in front of him. A lady interrupts them and Ben decides to leave. Outside, Jong asks Ben if he has heard from Hammy, but he denies knowing her location and says that Hammy disappeared in a puff in the air. He also reveals that Hammy once told him that Jong is her only friend and the person she trusts, and that made him jealous. Soon after, Jong goes to eat at a friend's restaurant. He asks her if she remembers when Hammy fell into the well, but the lady insists that the incident never happened because there was never a well in their house. A confused Jong decides to confirm her words and he discovers that there is no well in the house. He continues to trail Ben and follows everywhere he goes. Later that night, he receives a call and the person states that she is his mother. He meets her the next day and asks about the well. She tells him they had a well, however, Hammy never fell into it. Jong keeps trailing Ben. One night, he receives a call from Ben, who invites him to his house. Jong follows him and he sees a cat, which Ben claims he rescued. He then leaves for the bathroom and finds Hammy's pink wristwatch there, alongside the female items he saw the last time. He is also surprised as the stray cat answers to Boyle when they search for him and starts to realize that Ben isn't who he claims to be. Jong decides to go home and Ben tells him not to worry so much. The next day, Jong attends his father's last hearing in court and he is sentenced to 1 year and 6 months in prison. He decides to sell his father's cattle and goes to Hammy's apartment. He dreams about her pleasuring him, but he starts to feel lonely inside without Hammy. The day after, Jong asks Ben to meet him in the countryside and lies that he has found Hammy. Ben tries to run away after realizing that he is lying, but Jong stabs him multiple times. He douses Ben's body and his car with gasoline. He also takes off his clothes and sets the car on fire. The movie ends with Jong driving away as he watches Ben burn in the fire. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. I will see you next time with another chilling story.